Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with this morning's headlines. Nearly 350 Indians rescued from strife-torn Yemen arrive in Mumbai and Kochi. More Indian ships to reach Aden today. New foreign trade policy for 2015 to 20 focuses on boosting exports while creating jobs besides supporting centers Make in India and Digital India initiatives. Massive damage to the Rabi crop from unseasonal rains in northern India threatens huge losses to farmers besides wider economic challenges. And Iraq forces declare victory over the Islamic State in Tikrit, warning that the extremists would soon be wiped out from other provinces they control. Well, two groups of Indian nationals evacuated from strife-torn Yemen landed at Kochi and Mumbai international airports in the wee hours of this morning. An Indian Air Force plane carrying 168 Indian nationals landed at the Kochi airport at 2 a.m. while another C-17 Globemaster with 190 on board landed in Mumbai. They were part of around 350 Indians who had reached Djibouti after being evacuated on a Navy vessel from Aden in warlike conditions on Tuesday night. The evacuees include nurses and workers among others, bringing an end to an ordeal that lasted about a week. Operation Rahat to evacuate the close to 4,000 Indians continues, with more ships expected to reach Aden today.
No, the situation is very pathetic there. Now, really, we are very thankful to the Ministry of External Affairs. When we reached in Djibouti, then our Minister of Vacation, General Vacation, he was on board. So he welcomed us and he gave a nice treat and he arranged everything in Djibouti.
Flight വൈകിയത് ചില ഹോസ്പിറ്റലുകാർ പാസ്പോർട്ട് കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ലായിരുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ കോപ്പിയുള്ളവരാണ് കയറി വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. അങ്ങനെയുള്ളവർക്ക് അവിടെ ഭയങ്കര പാടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ എല്ലാം നല്ലതായിട്ട് നടന്നു കൊണ്ടുപോയി. യാഫ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സ്ഥലത്ത് കോണ്ടാക്ട് ചെയ്യാനൊന്നും പറ്റുന്നില്ല. യാഫ അവിടെ ഒത്തിരി മലയാളികൾ കുടുങ്ങിക്കിടപ്പുണ്ട്.
INS സുമിത്ര ഷിപ്പ് 10 മണിക്കൂർ കൊണ്ട് ഏതം പോർട്ടിൽ അടുപ്പിക്കുകയും അവിടുന്ന് നമ്മളെ ഇവിടെ കയറ്റി വിടുകയും ചെയ്തിരുന്നു.
Meanwhile, in Yemen, high tension persists on the ground as Houthi rebels make further advances into central Aden, a stronghold of Yemeni President Mansour Hadi. Reports suggest that the Russian consulate in Aden has been hit by Saudi-led coalition airstrikes as countries mount operations to pull out their nationals. Here's a report.
Houthi rebels gaining upper hand in Yemen as their base with tanks and ammunitions pushed forward into Aden, a strategic port city and the main foothold of fighters loyal to President Mansour Hadi. All this despite continuous airstrikes by Saudi-led coalition. Yemen's Shiite Houthi rebels held protests against Saudi-led airstrikes in Sana'a.
اجتمع الشعب اليمني الآن يعبر عن ضبحه وعن نكرانه وعن استنكاره لما يقوم به الطيران السعودي والصيني والأمريكي لاستهداف اليمن وأبنائه وأطفاله ونسائه.
Several countries including India, China, Pakistan and Somalia has evacuated their citizens and the mission continues. Officials said a Russian plane chartered for the evacuation of their citizens was diverted to Cairo after the coalition denied permission to land in capital Sana'a. Russian embassy in Yemen also reported that their consulate in Aden has been hit by the Saudi-led coalition airstrikes. Until now, 103 civilians and fighters have been killed in the city since clashes began last Tuesday. Meanwhile, Yemen's foreign minister said that their ally, former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, whose forces are better trained and armed, is country's bigger problem.
Our main problem now is not the Houthis. They are rebels, they are few, they have only light weapons, which most of the Yemenis, as you know, have got it. But because the Ali Abdullah Saleh forces, which have heavy artillery, have all kinds of weapons. They are the one.
Global watchers fear that if Saudi-led coalition airstrikes fail to quell the violence in Yemen, it could spill over into the border regions as well. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, back home, the new foreign trade policy for 2015 to 20 announces measures to promote use of indigenously produced goods to propel the government's Make in India program. Unveiling the policy yesterday, Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that it will push exports and generate jobs.
The new foreign trade policy is intended to back both manufacturing and the service sector while improving ease of doing business in India. Key highlights include online submission of documents to take an import-export code number. While the policy will focus on defense, pharma, environment-friendly products and value-added exports.
The focus of the new policy is to support both the manufacturing and services sectors with a special emphasis on improving the ease of doing business. Our objective is to provide a stable and sustainable policy environment for foreign trade in both merchandise and services.
The government has swapped all existing focus products and focus market schemes for goods with a single merchandise export from India scheme. Under the scheme, incentives will be given for export of specific goods to specific markets. For services, all schemes have been switched by a services export from India scheme with a greater push on notified services. In a major decision that would give a boost to special economic zones, the government has decided to extend both incentive schemes for exports of goods and services to units in SEZs.
E-commerce exports from employment-creating sectors have been supported under the merchandise exports from India scheme. The MEIS will support e-commerce to the extent that when they export goods which come from employment-creating sectors, so long as they use couriers or foreign post offices.
The policy announcement comes at a time when India's exports are shrinking. In the last 3 months, exports declined due to a contraction in global demand. So much so that the target of $320 billion for fiscal 2014-15 now seems unattainable. Exports during April to February 2014-15 were $286.58 billion, just 0.88% higher than what was seen in the same period last year. Plunging for the third straight month, exports declined sharply by over 15% to $21.54 billion in February. The new policy is expected to boost merchandise exports as India's outbound shipments in the last 3 years have been hovering at around $300 billion. With Mohammad Fateh Tipu, Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Closely linked to the economy, the Rabi crop wheat output and overall crop output is seen taking a bad hit this year due to untimely rains in northern and central grain growing parts of India just before the harvest. Top high protein wheat producing states of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan have had worst damage. While it is too early to estimate the extent of damage to the wheat crop, government officials said winter crops in more than 10 million hectares could be hit. This could also mean higher wheat imports this year. India has bought up to 80,000 tons of Australian wheat in recent deals, the biggest such imports by the country in 5 years. Politics has also emerged on the issue. The Congress has asked the centre to step in to ensure adequate compensation for losses to farmers.
जिस प्रकार आत्महत्याएं हो रही हैं, सरकार को जागना चाहिए और जिम्मेदारी से लोगों की मदद करनी चाहिए. सरकार के मंत्री ऐसे बेतुके बयान दे रहे हैं और कहते हैं कि अगर राजस्थान के लोग पेड़ से लटक कर मर जाएंगे तो उसमें कुछ नहीं कर सकते. अगर सरकार के मंत्री कहते हैं कि किसान आत्महत्या कर रहा है और वो कुछ नहीं कर सकते तो उनको अपना पद छोड़ देना चाहिए.
Joining me for a chat this morning on this very issue is senior journalist Gargi Parsai. Good morning, Gargi. Thank you for joining me on the program. You know, as far as the untimely rains are concerned, they have indeed wreaked havoc, especially in northern and central India, as far as the agrarian community is concerned. But how grave is the damage really, and are we prepared to tackle what's likely to come?
Well, let me put it this way. As you rightly pointed out, about 10 million hectares of land is affected from untimely rain, but more than rain, it is the hail which has affected the crop. And the major damage has been in states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Haryana has suffered great losses. So, and the concern is that the damage, the wheat crop could be damaged. Now, so far, the preliminary estimates show that the damage to the wheat crop would be to the tune of about 2 to 3%. So, if the target was for achieving 92 million tons of wheat production this year, then we might look at a loss of about 2.7 million tons of wheat. This combined with the losses we had in the Kharif this year, which was to the tune of about 9 million tons. Kharif is a rice growing period and Rabi is a wheat growing period. So, looking to all this, the government really needs to think whether it needs to export the wheat that we have. See, we are sitting on mounds of wheat, we are not importing. We are sitting on a lot of wheat, lot of crop, lot of grain, rice and wheat, and much above the buffer norms. And the government was looking at ways and means to liquidate the stocks so as to cut storage costs. Now, you earlier mentioned that government is importing, but let me just correct that. Government is not importing. Government was looking at exporting wheat if, as a last resort, if required. I think the government needs to rethink that.
All right, the government certainly needs to rethink that. One more aspect of it is, of course, the large-scale suicides that are taking place, underreported in the media, but indeed they are taking place because of the loss that the farmers perceive this time around. And not just that, even the compensation that is being given out to them. There are several cases where we have come across where compensation checks of 2 rupees and 1 rupee and 3 rupees are given out to these farmers. How does a farmer really tackle this problem, and where does the farmer go from here?
Yes, that is very unfortunate. Farmers getting checks of as low as 25 rupees and 2 rupees and things like that. See, there is a due process that the government follows. Now, I'm not taking up for government at all. But what I'm saying is that it's too early to estimate the losses. Harvest is yet to begin. Early harvest begins in states like Madhya Pradesh, which so earlier than Punjab and Haryana. The harvest in Punjab and Haryana will begin from Baisakhi, from April 15th. So we are still looking at that. To tell you frankly, low temperatures at this time of the year would be good for wheat crop. Only the hail that has come and a large velocity of winds that has come with rain has damaged crop in large tracts of Haryana especially, and parts of Rajasthan where the mustard crop has suffered. So if you look at that, and if you come to the compensations, the preliminary assessment is done by the Department of Agriculture. They just take a look at the crop, and it's also a kind of a very estimated kind of a survey, and then the states go in for their own spot assessments, and then the states, if they feel that the losses are huge, then they send a memorandum to the government. Now, the only thing that I have a problem with is that only areas which have suffered more than 50% of crop loss are compensated. I think the government needs to look at this policy. You cannot just say that if a crop loss in a particular area is more than 50%, only then will farmers be compensated, because each farmer has his own story and each farmer has his own situation. So that indeed is a problem, and the compensation, as you rightly mentioned, is rather low. It is just 4,500 per hectare for a rain-fed farmer, and higher, about 9 to 12,000 for an irrigated farmer. So these are the things government is looking at. But as I just pointed out, that the estimates now, for instance, 14 states are impacted this time because of untimely rain and hail. But memorandum has only come from one state, that is Uttar Pradesh, which has demanded a compensation of about 744 crore rupees from the government. The other states are still assessing their losses and just seeing what are the losses, and then when their memorandum comes. But as an immediate relief, government has asked states to utilize funds from the State Disaster Relief Fund, and the government has also asked them to take 10% extra. But all this is really doesn't matter so much to the farmers, because by the time the relief comes to the farmer, he's already suffered huge losses. And it's very difficult, and we also need to see how it is how it's monitored. The money, does it reach the farmers, or is it just handed over a check of 25 rupees? You know.
Sure. All right, Gargi Parsai, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
And farmers are committed. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on the program this morning and putting things into perspective for us on this very crucial issue. Well, on that note, we'll slip into a short break here, but still to come, negotiations for a framework on the Iran nuclear deal extended by another day. That and much more coming up on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you just now a rebel Aam Aadmi Party member?
We don't even know what is the Aam Aadmi Party anymore.
You did not want Aam Aadmi Party to win the elections in Delhi this time.
That statement of mine is being twisted around to say that I wanted the party to lose. I said that if this is the price that the party will have to pay for winning, then it is better to lose the elections.
Where do you stand today?
Arvind and his coterie, who currently control the organs of the party, they have betrayed the founding principles of the party.
Watch Aam Aadmi Party leader Prashant Bhushan converse in To The Point, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Malnutrition affects the brain even across generations. We have an integrated brain mapping and brain imaging complex which identified how the various circuits of the human brain work and function. A focus on science is a very important investment for the future.
Watch the best scientific minds come together and unlock the achievements of the scientific personas of the country, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. News from the states now. The Andhra Pradesh government yesterday approved Amravati as the new capital city of the state. It also approved the first phase of the new master plan of the city that has been prepared by Singapore government agencies. The Singapore government is expected to upload the new master plan on its website. The cabinet also approved the new industrial policy in an attempt to accelerate industrialization of the state. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu gave details about the developments. With Hyderabad as a joint capital, Andhra Pradesh has 10 years to develop the new capital.
కరెక్ట్ అనిపించే విధంగా ఉంది. అందుకని ఈరోజు పేరు పెట్టాం. పౌరాణికంగా చూస్తే ఇంద్రుడు పరిపాలించిన నగరం అమరావతి. చరిత్రలో ఒక ఉన్నటువంటి నగరంతో మళ్ళా అసోసియేట్ అయితే బాగుంటుందని ఒకటి. రెండోది ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ అమరావతి, అది కూడా కృష్ణానది ఒడ్డున. అది కూడా ఎప్పుడో కాటన్ అయితే బ్యారేజ్ కట్టింది 1850లో కట్టాడు. ఇవన్నీ చరిత్రలు అక్కడ.
Moving on now, the 300-kilometer long Srinagar Jammu National Highway has been closed again after heavy rainfall triggered massive landslides at several places on the road. More than 700 light motor vehicles were also left stranded on the highway. The road had been thrown open for movement of light motor vehicles in the morning yesterday. Officials say that the weather continues to remain unpleasant, which was badly hampering the restoration work on the highway, with rainfall triggering more landslides at Ramsu, Nasri and Moterkot. The Batote-Kishtwar highway was also closed for vehicular traffic. Well, let's take a look now at some other news and events lined up for the day in our segment, The Day Ahead. Congress President Sonia Gandhi will visit the rain-hit areas in Madhya Pradesh's Neemuch district today. She will meet agriculturists to take a view of damage caused to crops by hailstorm and untimely rainfall. She will also meet and address the affected farmers in the Chikodi village. Madhya Pradesh's Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has questioned her visit, saying that she had neglected the farmers in previous years when the UPA was in power. Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar will be on a 3-day visit to Nepal for the second leg of his SAARC Yatra starting today. The visit is aimed at firming up India's ties with members of the SAARC group while reviewing regional and bilateral cooperation. Jaishankar completed the first leg of his SAARC Yatra last month when he visited Bhutan, Bangladesh, Pakistan and Afghanistan. The BJP is preparing for its national executive starting in Bangalore tomorrow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party president Amit Shah and other top leaders are to attend the meet. It is still not clear whether party veteran LK Advani will address the meet this time around. The 2-day meet is likely to focus on expanding base of BJP and ways to propagate the work of the NDA government. Moving on now, after weeks of intense fighting, the Iraqi government on Wednesday declared a magnificent victory over Islamic State militants in the city of Tikrit. Iraqi flags have been raised across the city. Iraq state television broadcast videos showing Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi, army and police commanders walking freely in Tikrit. Government troops are still fighting to clear the last remaining IS holdout. Operation to recapture Tikrit had been the biggest since the government assault against the Islamic State. The mission was supported by the US-led coalition against IS. The Iraqi army considers it as a major gain before their next mission to recapture Mosul, Iraq's second largest city and a strong IS foothold.
هي تستلم الامن وتسلم ان شاء الله كل اداره المحافظه الى مجلس المحافظه والى المحافظه، والقوات الامنيه هي في حمايه المحافظه وحمايه المواطنين، وبمجرد ان نامن هذه المحافظه المواطنون ان شاء الله يرجعون الى هنا.
In some more international news now, efforts to arrive at a preliminary agreement on the Iran nuclear issue has been extended by another day. US Secretary of State John Kerry postponed his departure from the talks in the Swiss town of Lausanne for a second time and will remain until at least Thursday morning to continue negotiations. The German foreign minister said negotiators were still facing a tough struggle, indicating the talks were not likely to end anytime soon. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif expressed hope, however, that the political will for a solution remains.
We hope that the political will by all parties exists in order to move forward. There are obviously problems that have prevented us from reaching the first stage, finding the solutions, and I certainly hope that our colleagues will recognize the fact that this is a unique opportunity that will not be repeated, and they need to take advantage of this opportunity.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come, a roundup of all the international and sports news from around the world. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira.
Barack Obama has been elected on the basis that I will no longer take America into wars, and in fact quite the opposite, I will pull America out of wars.
According to the Indian government, fishermen are not at fault.
The US intervention in Iraq set the stage for exacerbation of these conflicts, and then the intervention in Syria.
Watch World Panorama at these times on Rajya Sabha television.
स्पेशल रिपोर्ट के इस अंक में हम आपको ला रहे हैं जाफना में।
श्रीलंका में दशकों तक चले गृह युद्ध का इलाका, अब कैसे हैं हालात, देखिए हमारी स्पेशल रिपोर्ट।
जाफना अपनी एक नई पहचान बना रहा है।
नए जाफना की नई कहानी सिर्फ राज्यसभा टीवी पर।
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Let's take a look now at some news and updates from around the globe in our World Wrap. Islamic State militants group took control of large parts of a Palestinian refugee camp Yarmouk in Damascus on Wednesday. Reports suggest that clashes erupted between the militants and groups inside the camp, with IS seizing control of large parts of the camp. According to the UN, about 18 Palestinian refugees are still inside the camp. IS militants have seized large swathes of territory in eastern Syria and across northern and western Iraq. Turkish police shot dead an armed woman carrying guns and hand grenades and detained a man when they tried to attack Istanbul's police headquarters on Tuesday. The wounded man is said to have been captured. The attack comes a day after two leftist militants took an Istanbul prosecutor hostage in his office. All three died late on Tuesday after police special forces stormed the building in an effort to release him. Thailand's military government has announced it is lifting martial law 10 months after it was imposed. It was introduced in May 2014, shortly before the army staged a coup. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha announced the move in a televised statement and has said it will be replaced by the new security order. However, the new measure has drawn considerable criticism, with many fearing that it could give the military more power than it had before. More than 2,000 people were evacuated from buildings along a main road in central London after an electrical fire broke out on Wednesday. Fire crews were called after smoke was seen coming out of a manhole which quickly enveloped nearby buildings. A 25-meter safety cordon was put in place by emergency services. Nigeria's President-elect Muhammadu Buhari has issued a defiant vow against militants Boko Haram and said that they would soon know the strength of his collective will. General Buhari also vowed to tackle corruption, which he described as an even greater evil. General Buhari won the election after beating President Goodluck Jonathan by 2.5 million votes. Let's take a look now at sports news from across sporting arenas around the world in our sports beat. Indian shuttler Saina Nehwal and Kidambi Srikanth reached the second round of the Malaysian Open in Kuala Lumpur. World number 1 Saina beat Indonesia's Maria Febe Kasumatsuti 21-13, 21-16 in the women's singles. She will next take on Chinese qualifier in the next round. World number 4 K. Srikanth defeated England's Rajiv Ausef 10-21, 21-15, 22-24 in the men's singles. He will next face world number 16 Tian Haowei of China. The world number 1 women's double pair of Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis reached the semi-finals of the Miami Open. The top seed Indo-Swiss pair defeated Anastasia and Arina Radionova 6-3, 6-4 in the quarterfinal encounter. The duo will next meet the 7th-seeded Hungary-French combine of Timea Babos and Kristina Mladenovic. In the men's singles at Miami Open, Andy Murray reached the semi-finals with a 3-set victory over Dominic Thiem. Third-seeded Murray lost the opening set but rallied to secure a 3-6, 6-4, 6-1 win. He will face the winner of the quarterfinal match between Czech Thomas Berdych and Argentina's Juan Monaco. Brazil's World Cup stadium in Natal has been put up for sale by owner company Grupo OAS. Natal's Dunas Arena is being sold as it is suffering from cash flow problems following a corruption scandal. The company has struggled for months with the impact of a corruption investigation in Petrobras company. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.